welcome to another Chili tutorial. Hi, hope you're enjoying the site so far. Okay, I'm having some fun making the website. In front of you, just a sort of brief explanation. We're looking at Flash and how Flash animation can be used. Flash isn't just used for animation when it comes to web design. It can be used for the basis of a website. And it is often is nowadays for a very dynamic website. However, sometimes if something's too flashy, it can put the end user off. Sometimes it's best just to stick to basic information. Well, it's better not to do it at all. There was a website made, an award-winning Flash website by Flexity, and they specialise in transport. My example is slightly the basic example, as you'll see in a minute. Basically, it's an example I made to put a banner on my website. I just wanted users to see that as soon as they got to the home page, it was a video tutorial banner online. One problem with this banner is that Google doesn't find that information in this animation. So, the Google searches, the Google bot isn't going to find that this animation holds information to do with video tutorials, which does make Flash a bit hard to fetch sometimes. However, we're using sort of media tags, you can get around this, but not with the actual animation itself. Okay, as you can see in my animation, it's very basic. It's just a nodding head that goes backwards and forwards. The idea I was trying to get across here was sort of a geeky feel, obviously sort of the paper background and the very sort of felt tip pen sort of look towards it, sort of student-y, sort of the website I was going for. But you can sort of manipulate this in any way you like, and you can spell it to any cause you like. For example, in this case I'm making a banner just to sort of bring some attention towards my centre of my page. However, you can use a banner or Flash system to obviously sort of buttons as well. You can use it to get people to enter information. There are really lots of opportunities and possibilities, and it's always best to check out YouTube. Some really good Flash tutorials on YouTube, and they'll basically run you through the basics of how to do different things, so it might be worth something sort of having a look at. Okay, in this case, just very basic, starting off from scratch. You see I started with what was a background, just manipulated this in Photoshop. Okay, and then I manipulated a drawing, or I did actually take a print screen from Google and manipulated a smiley face. Okay, and then what I've done is if you go into Photoshop and you select that smiley face, you edit, transform, and then rotate, and then literally rotate it in different angles, and then file save each different rotation to one document to the desktop, and then import these into Flash and place them on the timeline. Okay, the timeline works on the same basis as like a needle, or if you like, when it comes to timeline with Flash, it's like a record player. You have a needle and you'd have the record. The actions on the timeline are the same as if you spun the record with a needle on it. Certain actions only apply when the timeline reaches that pivotal point. Okay, so it's a sort of example here. You can see just the background. Okay. There you go. As you can see, when the timelines move backwards and forwards, you then get a movement of animation. So I'm going to open up Photoshop now, just bear with me a second. Basically just want to show you how you could sort of manipulate different images in a sense that to make this work. So I just set up the screen recorder again, using BSR screen recorder throughout the videos, by the way. Okay, it's just a low Flash again. I think there's a problem there with the rendering. Sometimes you do get a bit of a problem, and it will sort of freeze on you, especially with my laptop. If you're at Minnesota University, they do have some good laptops there for graphical stuff, but using Adobe Flash you do need, also with Photoshop I do find that you need a high level of RAM. It depends on what you're using. I'm using Flash CS3 Professional, actually using a trial version as a torrent, not actually cracked, or sort of, you often get people say crack the software or get an illegal serial number. I've not actually done that. A friend of mine had a torrent, and as a trial, so he basically gave me a copy of the trial, and it then will run out in 30 days. So it's probably worthwhile doing this. I mean, with any project you're doing, if your milestones stem along 30 days, anyway, the actual design, this isn't all that bad, and you can always get hold of another sort of trial somewhere else. For example, this trial is CS2. If this trial runs out, obviously the registry is then going to tell Adobe that I can't then download another trial, but I could always download an earlier or latter trial, and so it will do everything that you need when sort of doing anything for web design. It's also very good because it has access to Image Ready. Image Ready is great for cutting and sort of manipulating a design for a website with slicing into Dreamweaver, which I also have, which is on a trial basis. One Dreamweaver I do suggest you look for is Dreamweaver MX 2004, simply because you can get it free on CDs. Anyway, back to programming, well, not pre-programming, just animation. It doesn't really matter what sort of file you open. In this case, we could use ActionScript 2, ActionScript 3. ActionScript's definition only really comes in handy depending on the sort of language you're going to use. When you sort of get into more lingo scripting, you are going to need to worry which file format you're using. In this case, I'm just going to use sort of the most up-to-date to sort of try and avoid any file incompatibility. Okay, so back into Flash now. Okay, just to check my toolbars are all there. I want to check to make sure they're the right size. The most important thing when you start is to check the properties and you change the size of the area that you're going to be working. In this case, for example, if I knew my background or the area in Dreamweaver I was editing for was 300 pixels, if I made it 500-600 pixels wide, you're just going to be left with lots of white space. So I use a tool called JR Screen Ruler. It only measures width, it doesn't measure height, but you can get a good estimate with it. Okay, or ways of print screening and then sort of rotating and measuring. Okay, in this case 300 by 140. And just check the frame rate, frames per second. You can sort of determine how things play out when you're messing about with the timeline. Also quality of and size of file when you have compiled it. Okay, so just with the basics, I'm just going to open Photoshop and I'm just going to drag in my backgrounds or anything else I might need. You can also import, you just import to the library anything you create, and it will then be imported. You can import to the library in Flash or import it to the canvas you're working on. If you do this, it's better to have it in the library as a backup, really. Okay, so you do need to sort of cut and drag it again. Okay, so just to make sure in Photoshop, any image we make is the same size. Obviously, if I made my canvas or area in Flash 300 by 250, for example, if I then make a Photoshop file that is 500 by 500, it doesn't matter how big I draw the item in that canvas or work area, whenever I import it, then import it again through either bridge or just cut and pasting or selecting and dragging, it's going to keep the attributes in sort of aspect ratio. So very important to remember if you are sort of manipulating imagery for the internet, you could make a file, for example a banner, and then place it on the website and not realise that it's not going to be the right size, or it's going to be left with lots of white space. And this can ruin the look of the site, and also lots of hard work, especially if creating lingo script sort of games, anything like that in Flash, and then you realise it's the wrong size. It's not always that hard to rectify, but all the same, it's better that you sort of do keep an eye on sizes and also file size. Try to keep away from JPEGs and sort of use PNG. The file quality isn't all that different. It's definitely worth doing. Not that noticeable anyway. So anyway, I'm just going to make a background to put in. I'm going to save that. As I say, I'm not going to save it as a. Well, in this case, I will. Because it's just an example, sort of better quality example. Because I'm using a screen recorder to capture this video, so it's better quality. Okay, so we're just going to mess about with it. What I'm actually doing at the moment is I'm going to use like a lighting effect, if you like. If you imagine that there's 3 of these and the render date is in a different place, so I'll call it 1, 2 and 3. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to import them in to Flash, and I'll line them up on the timeline and just to show you how it sort of works. So at the moment we've got like a sunset, if you like, with a pink background with a sunset reaching right across the top. And these are each saved as different files, so we can either Control S or file save, okay, or even file save for web, optimize for web, if you want to. But to be honest, if you then point to Flash, there's not really any point in that.